let's say 0.1% of the time, juries convict people, they give a verdict of guilty when in fact the person is not guilty. That would mean that right now, 90 people in our prison system, roughly 88 roughly, would be innocent. That's nearly 100 people in this country right now in prison. And prisons are properly horrible places to be, right? Their lives ruined by mistake, erroneously. But is it okay? Like, do we need a jury system that we know has flaws to carry on because it's the fairest way? Given the right to trial by jury by King John in 1215 when the barons made him sign the Magna Carta. We've had it since 1215. 810 years! I just did the maths then. Of course, in the olden days, it only meant for rich people, but we can now demand to be tried in front of our peers. It's not foolproof. I suppose the question is this: do we make it more lenient and make sure that try and reduce that number of 90 as much as possible, but then also allow more criminals to go out and be on the streets again? Or do we go the other way? Do we crack down on crime so hard, but also accept that more innocent people will go to prison? Being a juror is really hard. Like right now, there's a Lucy Letby documentary on Channel 4, and there's a whole separate Lucy Letby documentary on the BBC because her case is fascinating. Either Lucy Letby is an innocent woman whose life has been utterly ruined by spurious charges and coincidence. Or Lucy Letby is the worst serial killer of children in this country ever. The ways she has killed children, if the verdict was correct, that she has killed children, is complicated. It is scientific. 12 jurors, how many of them would have understood the science in and of itself? So instead, they're relying on the testimony of the expert witnesses. And if one expert witness is more compelling, if one judge is more compelling, they're quite likely to sway the jurors' minds. I don't know if Lucy Letby's guilty, but if she's not, oh my goodness, just imagine if she's not. Imagine if you're Lucy Letby and you're not guilty. Let's talk about a man who was officially not guilty. Andrew Malkinson. He spent 17 years in prison. 17 years in prison, and he didn't do it. The witness said it was 100% him, but it wasn't. He wasn't there. It wasn't his DNA. He had nothing to do with it. 17 years. What it comes down to is this: are we prepared for some innocent people to go to prison? Because it is a 100% certain fact right now, someone innocent is in our prison system. Is that okay? What will we do? It's so hard. What's next is sentencing. What a mess sentencing is, right? Let's be absolutely clear. It's an absolute show. There are guidelines. All crimes have guidelines. I've just written a couple down here. So animal cruelty could range from a fine to 3 years and 6 months in prison. Now, I guess animal cruelty is a crime that could be of various different things. You could make a cat listen to the music of Celine Dion, and presumably that would be a fine, right? But you could also make a cat listen to the music of just the Titanic soundtrack, and that'd be a worse fine. Maybe prison. And then, listen, there's riot. There's a thing of riot, which is 3 years to 9 years. Just pause for a second. Right, riot's quite a bad crime. We had a few people do it last year. Like, it's quite a bad crime. The minimum is 3 years. What were you doing 3 years ago? Like, 3 years ago is still a pandemic, right? 3 years ago is a long time. It's a long time. But instead of having that time outside, instead of spending time with your lover or your family or making your cat listen to terrible music, right? Imagine if that was all just spent in this terrible place. It's bleak, man. I mean, but you're a criminal, so it's a punishment. So there we go. And then 3 to 9 years? 9 years. These are just numbers though, right? 5 years for this, 13 years for that, 9 years for this. How does any of this possibly make any sense? Just throwing down bits and pieces. I know there have to be some numbers. I'm not saying these people can't go to prison, because criminals should go to prison, right? That's generally accepted. But what do these numbers mean? How could every one of those be justified? I would love to speak to the Justice Minister and say to her, can that be justified? Can that be justified? This hierarchy of prison, can it be justified? Does it need changing? I'm sure there's a review. There's always reviews. And one thing at the moment that shows the arbitrary nature, right? So there's this lady that a lot of people in the Conservative Party Reform talk about all the time. She's called Lucy Connolly. And during the riots last summer, she wrote some horrible things on Twitter about setting hotels on fire and about, if that makes me racist, so be it. Like horror. She wrote some, like, she was inciting people to burn a building. She got, in that trial, 36 months in prison. And then other people who have done maybe similar things, maybe not on the right. I mean, Bob Villan was chanting, you know, death to the IDF at Glastonbury. This stuff. No one's got anything like 36 months, right? Nobody's got that. So there's a lot of people who are calling it a two-tier system. I don't think it's a two-tier system. I think it's a nonsense, ludicrous system in which basically you're playing pin the tail on the donkey at every stage of this justice system. We've looked at trial by jury, now we're talking about sentencing. It's like, oh, I don't know, how about this? There are guidelines. The judge uses guidelines when handing down sentences. But if those guidelines are nothingy, what hope do we have? We've got to work out what we're doing. Okay, you naughty little sausage. You have been tried by jury and you've been found guilty. You've been sentenced. And now here we are in prison. Where we probably are, is an old Victorian building. A lot of old Victorian building. And these Victorian buildings were designed because the idea was to have one person in each cell and they just had nothing going on. So they just had to sit in silence and think about what they've done. That was what happened in prison in the Victorian times. It wasn't fun. They didn't look after them particularly nicely, but there it is. So fast forward from there, 200 years, maybe 150 years, 100 years, to where we are now. That same prison is in use. Those walls are in use. That plumbing is in use. But they haven't got one person per cell. There's most often 2 people per cell. Let's not forget that the Victorians did not build these cells to be spacious. By Victorian standards, they were tight. And today they have double that capacity in lots of places. That Victorian plumbing, how do you think that's going? With overcapacity for that it was planned with, and also it's like properly old. How do you think that's going? And yeah, these cells are rubbish and it's loud, and the toilets can be coming away from the wall, and it's all of these things. But because there's so little money and so little staffing, you could be in there for 23 hours a day. It's so horrid. The only way we can start to get prisons better, I think, meaningfully better, is either by reducing the prison population, which comes down to sentencing again. Well, I suppose ideally it'd be reducing crime. Just stop crime. So come on, Keir Starmer, Yvette Cooper, stop all crime. If that doesn't work though, we need to build a lot more prisons without increasing capacity. So you need to build more prison space so you can alleviate the space you've got at the moment, right? These are people. We need to treat them as such. One day they will get out, and how they've been treated in prison will determine how they behave outside of prison. I think the Ministry of Justice got a long way to go before they really get to where I presume they want to be. One final thing. Here's something we could do to help prisoners, people who are currently in prison, feel that they're part of the country, feel that they've got skin in the game, feel like they matter a little bit. We give people in prison the vote. Because without it, it just feels like even more things are just happening without them. It's got nothing to do with them. The logic of they're being punished, so they have to have their vote taken away from them, isn't logical if your aim is to rehabilitate, get people back on board. If it's just to punish, then sure, I guess, don't give them any food either. A flicker of redemption. A flicker of redemption through the ballot box. Of course, the polling station would have to be in the prison. You can't let them all out. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. That'd be a very silly thing to do. The possibility, the hope of seeing yourself reflected back at you through the corridors of power. Special.